There have been lots of WWE releases over the weekend, plus some other news, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you do like the content, guys, give us a like and a subscribe, and leave a comment with your thoughts. I'm joined by Kronus. Kronus, should we get into it?
Yeah, there's lots to discuss.
Yeah. So first thing I want to say about these releases is obviously the main thing is we hope that the people affected find other avenues of work and income, which I'm sure they will. But this is unfortunately a standard part of the business. It does happen. It's happened, regularly. So it's just something that they can't hire everyone. So, but we are going to talk about a few of these individually. Should we start with Braun Strowman?
Yeah, the biggest one, literally
the largest release. I like Braun Strowman. I've always liked him. He seems like a really cool guy. When he started in WWE, he was kind of a bit out of his depth with the Wyatt family, but he sort of found himself, didn't he, as like a monster style character, and he's been a good servant, I think. Former Universal Champion, former Tag Champion. He won the Greatest Royal Rumble. Still undefeated in that. Actually,
Tag champ with, how old was that kid, Nicholas?
About 8 or 9 was he, or something like that.
Yeah.
Legendary stuff. But I was quite sad to see him go, but I think with his age, and obviously he's a big guy, so he doesn't move as well as he used to, and we can kind of see that. I think this probably makes sense. What do you think?
I see where you're coming from, but he recently had those really good Last Monster Standing matches.
Yeah.
With what's his face, Branston
Reed, yeah.
And Fatu.
Yeah.
And he bumped like a champ for both of them, really put them both over. So he's still able to do it.
Yeah, I feel like that's where he's always shined, in those types of matches. It could be as simple as his contract may have been coming to the end, and they probably didn't see the kind of value in renewing it for another 3 years, for example. Yeah. I imagine.
A lot of money.
Yeah, I imagine a lot of these are probably people who are kind of approaching the end of their contract, and then it's just like, it's timing more than anything. And it wouldn't surprise me if Braun fell into that category, but he was released before, under the Vince McMahon era, brought back. But it'd be sad to see Braun go. I don't know what he does now, but whatever he does, I hope he kicks ass.
Yeah, be interesting to see what. He's certainly got the look enough to be in movies. Yeah. Even if it's just big dumb guy number 3.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Keep an eye on the Strowman Express. Woo! And we'll see where it gets off next.
Choo-choo.
Choo-choo. Who should we go to next? I'm going to go to one that probably surprised me the most, and that is the tag team of Caden Carter and Katana Chance.
Yeah, they're like the only legit women's tag team they've got.
Yeah, really. And the best tag team they've got. And this, I was surprised. However, I thought to myself, is this them subtly saying that they are just doing away with women's tag team division?
Well, they're going to be off TV, well, apart from with Raquel for a while now. Liv's going away to do that film.
Yeah, Liv's going to do that jaw-dropping film that no one's ever heard of. So she'll have fun with that. But no, I was surprised because they are the only legit tag team, and they are a very good tag team, and they're both very good wrestlers. But I wonder if this is a sign that the kind of WWE women's tag team division has kind of, I don't know, failed, if you like. I haven't really been that excited about it ever, to be honest.
Not really.
It's not been enough substance to it, because apart from Caden and Katana, most of the tag teams were just kind of thrown together for a bit, and then they'd go their separate ways, and there was never really any story. And I don't know, it felt like they were doing it because they felt they had to, and it just didn't feel like a lot of effort went into it. So I wonder if this is them just saying, we've got women's mid-card titles now, that probably should take the priority.
Well, even spread across SmackDown, Raw and NXT, it always felt like there wasn't really enough of a division for those women's tag titles. So I guess it does make sense maybe to phase them out. They've got a chance to.
Yeah, exactly. And I see people saying, well, why don't they, why are they releasing people? It's like, well, they're not going to they're a business predicated on making money. They're not going to keep people for the sake of it just to fill bodies and bloat TV and bloat the roster. That's not how it works. And I think with the people coming in and the NXT talent moving up, and then you've got the Evolve and the LFG talent going to NXT, and it's one big cycle. And, there's only so much room. But yeah, I think women's tag team wrestling in WWE took a massive hit with this one. But shall we move on to Shayna Baszler?
Yeah.
This one is, I think, this one to me is sad from a long-term perspective, but it's not surprising at all. Given
I don't know what they could have had.
Yeah.
If they booked her properly.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a killer in NXT, longest reigning NXT women's champion of all time if you look at combined reigns. And then, under the main roster under Vince, she was just, not used very well, was she? And that's kind of been the case for a long time now, and it hasn't really changed. So I'm not surprised by this one, but yeah, I wish they'd done more with her.
Yeah, I mean, she's talented enough in several combats.
Yeah.
To get on and do anything, really.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll land on her feet. She's obviously friends with Marina Shafir and A.I.W, so she could end up there. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. She could go to TNA and be a killer. She'd fit like a glove in Japan.
On a side note, doesn't it feel weird now that sort of WWE and TNA are in bed? WWE stars sort of going straight to TNA from their release.
Yeah, potentially.
Does that seem a bit weird?
I'm sure it's perfectly legal. It's just,
it's just I've left that company that this company's friends with, and I'm now with this company.
Well, yeah, I mean, it might be one of the benefits. It might be, we can write into their contract so that you get first dibs on release talent or something like that. And,
maybe.
I think we'll talk about Cora Jade very shortly, but she's appeared on TNA quite regularly. So I think, let's move on to Cora Jade. So Cora Jade got released.
Yeah.
This one caused a bit of a stir in the community, as you can imagine. She's been on NXT for a long time. And I know you can say Roxanne had as well, but Roxanne, two-time women's champion in NXT. But yeah, Cora Jade, I thought she's fine. I didn't think she was a bad wrestler or anything, but it seemed odd that she was always in NXT, but she was never kind of elevated to winning titles or anything like that.
Yeah, bit of a weird position.
Yeah, but she's been on TNA quite regularly recently. So, maybe she's now she knows TNA, they know her. Maybe that could be for some of these ladies, maybe that could be quite a quick fix for them once their 30/90 days is up. I was surprised that Cora Jade got released just because she'd been on TV quite regularly. But
yeah, stuff going on, teasing on the main roster as well, wasn't she?
Well, I don't think she was directly involved, but I think she was involved with people who are directly involved. So, indirect involvement. But again, it might come down to, her contract was coming up in 4 months' time, and they said, look, we're not going to renew it. Let's just leave. You can go now, kind of thing, and that's the end of that. Which, I'm sure is best for everyone, really, because, if you're a wrestler, you want to wrestle. You don't just want to sit in catering forever and just be paid, because nobody wants that. It doesn't benefit anyone. So I think if it's best for the talent and it's best for the company, it's best for everyone, then that's why these things happen. But I can understand that it can be upsetting for people who wanted to make it in WWE, and obviously it hasn't happened for them, so I do get that as well. Let's move on to the one that probably hurt you the most, Kronus, Gigi Dolan.
Yeah.
Again, this one did surprise me because she was in a championship match last week.
Yeah, and just part of a pretty new faction.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Of which another one of them was released as well, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, we can move on to Shotzi next.
Yeah.
She came a bit after the others, but both surprising. I was into the faction.
Yeah.
For reasons undisclosed, but they were really good in the ring as well.
Yeah, I've always been I think Tatum Paxley especially is a very, very talented one, and I think she's safe she didn't get released. But yeah, Gigi Dolan, obviously she had a big impact with Toxic Attraction back in the Mandy Rose and JC Jane days. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we may never know the conversations that happen around these releases, whether it's whether it's contract, whether it's it could be disputes, it could be they want more than they're going to pay, so it could be something as simple as that. But yeah, I was surprised at Gigi because the whole lots of TV time, championship matches. So again, can see her going to TNA very easily. She's been on TNA quite a bit as well. So hopefully there's an avenue for those people. It all depends on, have TNA got room? They've got a great women's division. Have they got the room and the finances? So
Jordan and probably others might be going WWE way. So that could open up some spaces, potentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jordan Grace has moved over, hasn't she? So it depends on... Yeah, we don't know what TNA's books are like, so we'll have to wait and see. But let's move on to... Who should we pick next? Let's go through ones that we'll probably not spend too much time on. Eddie Thorpe. Oh, Shotzi, of course. Sorry, yes, Shotzi. Yeah. So Shotzi, I believe, was one where she wasn't released. So they're just letting her see out the last few bit of her contract. So that's where the difference comes in.
She went a no compete.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when her contract's up, which is probably going to be in 30/90 days anyway, it's just more of a notice period. Then she'll be free, and I'd like Shotzi. I think kind of gutted I haven't seen more of her recently, because she was on SmackDown, wasn't she? And she wasn't lighting the world on fire, but she had a good personality. She seemed kind of fun to be on screen and stuff. So yeah, Shotzi's another one I can see picking up work elsewhere quite quickly. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, you can say that the same about a lot of them, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd expect so. Her and Gigi.
Yeah, whether they go together, don't know. They could end up in the same place and just renew their kind of mini faction on a different promotion. Would be fine.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's move on to Eddie Thorpe. Again, I'm not really surprised by this one. He's not really been lighting the world on fire.
He was briefly in the NXT title scene, wasn't he?
He was, yeah, but at the time that men's division was, shall we say, not the most stacked in the world.
Barren.
Yeah. So yeah, Eddie Thorpe, he just didn't really do anything for me personally. I think he was fine. I'm not gonna say he's a bad wrestler or anything, but he didn't kind of stand out like a Trick Williams or an Obafemi kind of thing. And obviously it's sad the guy's lost his job, and again, I don't know what his plans are, but yeah, all the best to him. But yeah, it's just one of those sad realities of wrestling, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, people are coming through all the time. You can't hang on to everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on to Riley Osborne. I mean, he wasn't on TV much in the Chase U era, but I thought he was fucking great in the ring.
I didn't see a lot of him, to be honest.
Oh man, when he was in the ring, he was an absolute hooper. He's really good in the ring.
Speedy boy.
Yeah, I could see him. I could see him getting picked up by A.I.W. / ROH because he's got the kind of work rate that Tony Khan likes. He's got the kind of like Mike Bailey sort of Kevin Knight sort of just athleticism. So yeah, I can see him, whether he goes to the Indies or wherever. I think he'll be fine. But yeah, it just wasn't used. I know he's dealing with quite a serious foot injury at the moment, so
yeah, well, all the best.
Yeah, so we'll see how he gets on. But yeah, it's one of those things. And Chase U, obviously, first incarnation of Chase U was no more. Now there's a second one, so maybe he's not a part of that. But all the best to Riley Osborne. Gallus, Mark and Joe Coffey and Wolfgang, all three released. Again, I don't think this one was a surprise, unfortunately.
They weren't on NXT at all.
No, not for a long time.
Really.
Not for a long time.
On Evolve?
Yeah, Mark Coffey, I believe, was on Evolve. Yeah,
was in video package. I've not actually seen any of it yet.
No, I haven't actually. No, I wasn't surprised by this one. Unfortunately, haven't been on TV for a long time. Even on social media, like people, I always saw people just say that they weren't that entertaining. And you know, I mean, what use could you have given them? Like, could they have been like a little heater group for a heel Drew McIntyre? Possibly, it could have been fun if you had someone else kind of be the voice for them. But yeah, I just didn't think it was going to work out for Gallus, unfortunately.
Yeah, it just seemed like they didn't really have any other ideas than just 3 angry Scottish blokes.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, that is the way it goes.
Yeah.
Who else have we got? Jakara Jackson.
Yeah.
I was surprised by this one. Yeah. I
mean, talked about legit women's tag teams, and the Meta Girls were probably the next closest.
Yeah. And I think that what this says to me is that they see Lash Legend as a future single star.
Yeah.
And that is what they're going to do.
Definitely got the size.
She's got the look, yeah. She's got the look. She can talk. She's improved massively in the ring, Lash Legend, from where she was. Yeah. She's really picked it up, so fair play to her. And I think Jakara has as well. I think they've both been very good. So whether this is a, you know, kind of maybe Lash has 2 years left and Jakara has like 4 months left. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. But I was surprised to see Jakara go. I thought she'd made some strides, and I thought they would kind of bring them up as a tag team. But again, that kind of reinforces my thought that, you know, they've released like, you know, 3/4 of 2 legit tag teams there. So I wonder if they don't see her as a single star, in which case we're not going to have tag team divisions. So we're going to let you go and do your thing elsewhere. But again, I'm sure she'll be fine. She's been on TNA. I feel like I'm saying that with all these people. They've all been on TNA. Let's move on to a couple more. Oro Mensah and Javier Bernal.
I know Oro Mensah.
Yeah.
Vaguely, but I don't remember the other bloke.
Javier Bernal. So Javier Bernal is Tatum Paxley's husband.
Okay.
And he was on TV a long time ago on NXT, and I thought he was really entertaining. He had this gimmick called Big Body Javi, where he'd just kind of go around, you know, being this like delusional heel, like supermodel guy. And I remember that he released his Big Body cologne and he called it BBC, and it was just great, and he just didn't understand the reference. It was really funny. And I feel like NXT needs more of that, and I thought Javier Bernal did that character really well. So I don't know where he's been since. I think he was on Level Up a few times when it was around. But yeah, good luck to Javi. And Oro Mensah as well. Yeah, like you say, I thought he was quite good, but just not on TV for a long time. And finally, we are going to get to this one, probably the biggest release of the weekend, which was Dakota Kai. Now, Dakota Kai, I've seen this has obviously upset people the most because people love Dakota Kai on the internet. I think she's fine. I've got nothing against Dakota Kai at all. I think she's a nice person. She's a good wrestler. Could injuries have played a part in this? Maybe. Could contract length played a part in this? Maybe. Are there no plans for Damage Control going forward? Maybe. We'll never know. But what did you think of the Dakota Kai release and the inevitable response online?
Well, yeah. The response was as expected, really, but
it was a bit much, wasn't it?
The release itself, I mean, she'd been away for a while, was injured, but then famously said she wasn't, and she was just waiting.
Yeah.
To this, I mean, when you're off for that long, I guess it's not really much of a surprise that she's included, but she was in a fairly prominent place on the women's roster.
Yeah, she was in the IC tournament final, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Former women's tag team champion. She's obviously been with Damage Control for 3 years now, even since she came back. So the thing I want to make clear is that people are saying that why are they releasing so many women when they've got things like Evolution 2 coming up and a mid-card division. And I'm just going to read you out a few names of the remaining talent of how stacked this division is. Io Sky, Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, Stephanie Vaquer, Bianca Belair, Asuka, Kairi Sane, Jade Cargill, Zelina Vega, Tiffany Stratton, Naomi, Sol Ruka, Zarya, Nia Jax, Julia, Roxanne Perez, Becky Lynch, Bayley, Lyra Valkyria, Alexa Bliss, Jordan Grace. That is insanely stacked, and that's just a few that I thought off the top of my head. Like, that is what we've got left. So I think there was a lot of roster bloat in the women's division that people weren't really realizing because they weren't on TV. But that's just a few off the top of my head, and that's what, 15, 20 talent? Like, main eventers, like championship material talent. That's not jobbers. That is like Hall of Famers, current champions, future champions, ready to go.
The same amount of sort of future greats down in, not LFG, but in
Evolve.
NXT.
Evolve and LFG as well. And that's not including the likes of Jada Parker, Lola Vice, Kalani Jordan, you know, all the great talent down there. Then you go into Evolve and you've got people like Kendall Gray who are going to absolutely kill it when they get featured. So yeah, I think the Dakota Kai release was surprising just because of how much she was on TV recently. You know, am I going to get upset about it? No, I don't get upset over releases just because it's just part of what happens in every industry. You know, like UPS laid off 20,000 people this week. You know what I mean? McDonald's lay off thousands every year. It's just a business thing. And it sucks if you're a fan of that wrestler and they're your favorite and you want to see. I know it sucks, but you know, it's just something that happens, and we're never going to get to the truth about why these releases happened. So, yeah, but that's the releases covered. It was a lot of releases. You know, maybe they're kind of there now. There hasn't been any more news recently, so maybe they're done for now. And we'll see who gets brought in to kind of fill these gaps, if there are any. But next, I do want to talk about some news that dropped today about our good friend Alberto Del Rio.
Oh, yeah.
Who don't think any of us have any interest in seeing on our televisions. So a report came out today, a very vague report from I assume a journalist in Mexico. And pull that up for me, Jamie. Let me just have a look at this.
Campo X Law.
That's the one. Yeah, you've got it. Can you read out word for word what the first report says on that post?
Oh, hang on. I've got a screenshot of that post.
Bear
with me. Well, because it just says wrestlers from AAA that have already signed contracts with WWE. This one, I don't think it's the original though.
Yeah, so I've got it here. Yeah, I've got it here. So wrestlers from AAA that have already signed contracts with WWE. Top of that list, Alberto Del Rio, probably because he's the world champion of AAA. Now, I think that reporting something like that in those words is deliberately inflammatory, because you as a journalist are going to know exactly what the reaction to that sort of thing is going to be. Now, obviously, people have reacted to this in completely rational ways, as they always do. I've seen people threatening suicide over this, like, please give me a break and get some help. So I think what the situation here is, this is very complicated, and this is something that hardly any of us understand, which is corporate mergers. None of us, I'm not an expert. Kronus, are you an expert? And you're just hiding it from me?
No, definitely not.
No, we have no idea. None of you listening to this, very few of you have any idea how corporate mergers work or acquisitions of things like this. So all I will say is, don't treat this as he signed a contract with WWE. It could be something as simple as he's on a AAA contract. They've been agreed to be acquired by a different company. Therefore, they have to do some, rejigging of the contracts to match the new parent company. It could be anything like that. But I do not think we are going to see Alberto Del Rio on Raw and SmackDown every week. I don't.
No.
I think he'll wrestle in Mexico, and he might appear at one of the very few Worlds Collide shows they do with NXT. And if you don't like that, then just don't watch it, I'm afraid. But I don't like the guy. I think he's not a very nice person, to put it lightly. I don't think he's a great wrestler. Never have.
No, pretty average.
Yeah, and he reminds me of probably the worst era of WWE that I ever watched, which was the early 2010s. So I'm no fan of him, but do not take this as a gospel story. And don't compare the two as well. Don't say they released X, but they signed Alberto Del Rio. They're not the same thing.
Yeah, totally different.
They're totally different things. So breathe, everybody. Calm down. I don't want to see him on TV as much as you do, but I don't think it's happening. So I don't think we have to worry.
Even if he actually has signed a contract with WWE, look at all the other people who would have as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And Nino Hamburguesa.
Nino Hamburguesa, which I think is a little hamburger, isn't it?
Hamburger boy?
Hamburger boy, yeah, that's it. Or hamburger son. Son of a hamburger.
No, Hijo Del or D is son.
Oh, son, yeah. Sure. Nino is boy, yeah. Nino is boy.
Yeah.
Who else have we got? We got Lady Flammer, La Hieda, La Parca, and Lady Maravilla. I believe they are a trio, aren't they? Of women.
I don't know.
But I think there's three luchadoras in there.
No La Parca, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And the others,
but yeah, there's. I mean, I'm not familiar with a lot of this AAA talent. I don't watch AAA. I'm aware of Vikingo because of A.I.W, and I'm aware of Del Rio, unfortunately. But you know, I'm looking past that, and I'm excited about the other talent.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
especially if it's more sort of accessible to us.
Yeah.
Because for me, watching AAA probably means subscribing to some other subscribing service.
Yeah.
And I've already got too many of those for wrestling.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, we need an all-in-one, don't we? But no, that's a wrap, guys. That's all from us today. Just wanted to give our thoughts on the releases and some brief thoughts on this rather vague report about Alberto Del Rio re-signing with WWE. But let us know in the comments what you think about the releases. Who do you think was the most surprising? Who do you think will come back one day? Because a lot of them do. And what are your thoughts on Alberto Del Rio potentially appearing on NXT one day? Exciting times as always. But we'll see you on the next episode.
All right, see you soon.